Hello DT friends from around the world. Welcome to a new tea class with me and especially to a new tea semester focusing on our subject Baozhong tea. And this class is brought to you by the Tea Masters boutique, tea-masters.com, tea boutique. I'm Stéphane Erler, the founder of the Tea Masters blog and also the taster for a fantastic selection of teas in this boutique. It ranges from the lightest, finest green tea to the darkest chaud pu'er. It goes from the Oriental Beauty Oolong of Taiwan in the low elevations to the highest peaks of Lishan, Daoling and Fushoshan. And of course, it goes from the east coast of Taiwan with its red teas, Sun Moon Lake also with red teas, to the Yunnan province with its Gushu pu'er. Here we have Gushu from Laobanzang, Yiwu, Linsang, Lansang, Jiangcheng. Lots of wonderful teas that await you in my boutique, tea-masters.com. But today we are going to focus on another tea category. It is one that is very close to scented teas. Here in my boutique you will find jasmine and osmanthus scented teas. But no, I'm not going to speak about these teas yet. I'm going to speak about Baozhong tea. And I will reveal a few secrets about this tea, things that very few people know, the first of which, why do I speak of scented teas, is because Baozhong was invented as a scented tea. And it was exported even to other countries. I will also reveal where. But if you thought that scented teas are something that Western brands have created using cheap tea dust, broken leaves, and then artificially enhanced with chemistry or with flowers, then actually you are mistaken. Scented teas are not unusual in Chinese history. I think maybe the most famous of the scented tea is a tea mix that was invented by Emperor Qianlong during the 18th century. He lived from 1711 to 1799, a long-lived emperor with the longest reign in the Qing dynasty at least. And this emperor invented Sanqing Cha, the three purities. He mixed Longjing green tea with plum blossoms and also pine seeds and Buddha hand citron. So this shows that scented teas were not just cheap teas scented with flowers, but could be the most exquisite green teas scented with flowers. So I'm going to reveal another secret about Baozhong, or a very lesser known fact about it. But before that, I wish to now move to our practical part of tasting Baozhong tea. So lesson 1, we'll start with tea number 1, which is the Wanshan Baozhong. In my list, it is the most affordable Baozhong that I have selected in my list this year. It's spring 2025 harvest, made from the jade cultivar, also cultivar number 13. So it is a creation from the Taiwan Tea Institute that has paired different teas and came up with Jinchuan and Tsuyu roughly at the same time in the early 80s. Now for this Baozhong, they are using Cui Jade Oolong, because it is a young cultivar that is quite suitable for making low oxidized tea. Now, the second thing that we are going to learn in this class is how to brew these leaves to, let's say, not say perfection, but let's brew them so well that they will feel like, not like the cheapest tea, but maybe like one of the best teas in my selection. So this is really where you are going to get the most out of this class. How am I able to brew these leaves so that they taste much better than their price would suggest? And today we have, like usual, several accessories to our disposal. What are we going to use? A bowl, a gaiwan, or an Yixing teapot. I've made lots of experiments this week and in the last 20 years, and my conclusion for this tea, you will get the best results with the gaiwan. So we take these two away and we'll focus on the gaiwan. I will tell you why in a moment, but before we start, we still need to clarify one thing. Baozhong. What is Baozhong? Also written Baozhong, P-O-U-C-H-O-N-G. And it is a word that comes from two Chinese characters, Bao, to wrap, and Zhong, middle. Now, it started as simply a wrapping technique. The tea producer would place their tea leaves in the middle of two sheets of paper and would wrap them, starting with the leaves in the middle, and obtain a rectangular shaped package using these two sheets of paper. However, I'm not very gifted with my hands, so I cannot show you exactly how they were doing it, but actually the name simply came from this wrapping technique. Now, what does it mean for this tea family? Since it's only a wrapping technique. Actually, it means that first you can make Baozhong with any kinds of cultivars that are suitable. We can make it nowadays with jade, with Sejichun, with Jinshuan, Qingxing Oolong, Daiye Oolong, all the varieties, all the cultivars that you can think of that can be used for Oolong, usually will also go well for Baozhong. So Baozhong is technically in the, in terms of oxidation, in the Oolong family. It's not a green tea and it's not a red tea. It's in between, partially oxidized, so it's in the Oolong family. However, in Taiwan, where things can be a bit confusing, people will tell you Baozhong is not Oolong. I just told you Baozhong is included in the Oolong family, but in Taiwan, Oolong has a second meaning. It also means rolled, partially oxidized leaves. So when the shape of the leaf is rolled, in Taiwan it will be called Oolong, and when it's not rolled, it will be called Baozhong most of the time, if it's a partially oxidized tea. If it's a green tea, it will not be called Baozhong. If it's a red tea, also not. But if it's partially oxidized and not rolled, then it can be called Baozhong. Another important fact is that roasting does not influence on the name. So we have unroasted Baozhong, we have roasted Baozhong. So Baozhong can be either roasted, medium roasted, or very roasted, or not roasted at all. So roast does not affect the name Baozhong. We don't know from the name if it's roasted or not. What is clear is that in the past, Baozhong used to be more roasted than nowadays, nowadays the trend follows a bit the taste of consumers who like high mountain oolong very much. So it's a trend towards lighter oxidation and very light roast, or just simply a dried leaves, well dried leaves. Now let's move on to taste and brew these leaves in particular. So first, before we decide on how to brew, we have to think of what is the character of this particular Baozhong. So we know it was harvested on April 10th, 2025. So it's an early spring harvest, mechanical harvest, because it is a rather affordable tea. It is a jade oolong cultivar, a cultivar that is known for being light in taste. It is also coming from Wenshan, from Pinglin, and in Taiwan the taste is also very light, very mellow, very sweet, not bitter or sour like some other terroirs in other countries. And since this is and now let's also look at the leaves. Now what will maybe be quite obvious is that we have some darker leaves, quite large, but also some lighter colored leaves that are almost yellow and that look very dry. Now, are these Dongpian? Stefan, Mr. Euler, what did you do with these leaves? How can you select such ugly looking leaves? They seem like fried, like these leaves have been under the sun for too long and will taste very bitter. Don't panic. Don't judge a book by its cover. If you, this might be the first reaction if you know a little bit about leaves and looking at the state of dry leaves, but don't be too quick to judge. We have to remember this is a very affordable tea. Now, tea is judged first by its appearance, by its smell, by its taste, and if it rates very high on all three, then it will be quite expensive. However, if it rates a bit lower on the appearance but quite high on taste and aroma, then actually here you have potential for a good bargain, because there are no miracles. There must be some you have to find a compromise somewhere. So here with this tea, what is likely if you taste it for the first time is that the look is not so good, but the taste and aromas will be quite nice. I've had it several times, so don't worry. This is exactly the case. I'm just fooling with you. So, knowing this, what kind of brewing do we want? So, we know this is a tea that will emphasize fresh aromas, a light taste, and the open leaves, unlike oolong, release their flavors very quickly. So we want a brewing style that will be quite quick, to release only the lightest fragrances from this tea. But to obtain this, we need to preheat the gaiwan very well. And in order to brew quickly and still get a nice result, we're using a higher leaf to water ratio. I will almost maybe exceed half the volume of the gaiwan with dry leaves. Especially these leaves are quite large, so they quickly fill the gaiwan easily. If you want to speed up and make sure that your lid is well warmed up, you can also do like this. And now we are preheating our cups. Pour in the middle of the gaiwan. You don't want to put the leaves on one side, you really want to put them in the middle. It's evening, so I'm not going to overdo it. Should be enough. And what we can do is start slow, and towards the middle go a bit faster, and then slow again. Okay. With our lid, we see there was some foam. With water, we clean this away. Put the leaves towards the middle, close, empty the water, and I would say, et voilà, it is ready. We are emptying the gaiwan. We see very light greenish brew with good transparency, but very light. The fragrances are really very fresh, very floral, very refined. Of course, it's still very hot. We are going to wait a bit. We can also see the leaves that have opened up. Later, maybe after the second or third brew, you will check and you won't find any huangpian, any yellow leaves, and, which means that all these leaves that looked very dry, actually this was more a little fault during the process. They are still very green, so very fresh in terms of fragrances. It feels almost like a high mountain oolong, because it is very early in the spring, so very fresh aromas. This year was very cool in terms of temperature, so it could not be that these leaves were dried and overly mature. And like this, well, even the taste is very buttery, very sweet, very light. So if you like the high mountain oolong, this technique tries to come as close as possible to this feeling. Of course, we are in Wenshan, a more forest-like terroir with lots of rivers. We are going to describe this terroir more in detail in the coming weeks. But we can feel this, that this terroir is has more forests than the high mountain of Taiwan, where vegetation is a little bit different, more bamboos and pine trees. Here we have a more subtropical soil and subtropical conditions. But yeah, very light, refined fragrances that you would not expect from tea that only costs $17.5 for 150 grams. So, really very impressive results with this technique. I'm going to maybe brew a bit later, second brew. And we can continue our historical lesson with a second bit of information that I found very amazing. I checked even several sources. They all confirmed that Baozhong, this typical old name for Taiwan tea, did not originate in Taiwan, but in Fujian, in Fuzhou. There are all the sources I checked, be it DeepSeek, ChatGPT, T. Parker, they all point to the same direction, that it's in Fuzhou making flower tea that they invented this wrapping technique, called it Baozhong. So we still have this rectangular shape for the Baozhong that is packed in pinglin, but it is not packed in paper anymore, but in these plastic foils that keep the moisture better away and preserve the tea better. The inventor, some claim that it is a certain Wang Yicheng in Fuzhou. As for Taiwan, the first company that produced Baozhong is supposed to be named Hershing Tea Company by the owner Wang Deng. Here there are a bit more conflicting. Different sources will have different persons who will be the first one to produce this tea. But Hershing Tea Company is named, and there's evidence in this book quite early on, in the later part of the 19th century. In Fuzhou it comes back to something like 1852 for the invention of Baozhong, and maybe 20 years later for Baozhong in Taiwan. For a long time, or for a certain time, tea companies in Taiwan have sent their tea leaves to Fuzhou, and there the tea was scented and then exported. But after a time they thought, okay, we can also keep the value chain here in Taiwan, grow the flowers and the leaves, scent both together, and then export directly from Taiwan to Southeast Asia, mostly Indonesia, in order to save cost, because we don't have to ship the tea back and forth several times. And this is how, for a certain time, one of the largest exports from Taiwan to Southeast Asia was Baozhong scented flower tea, mostly jasmine, but then also magnolia and other strong scenting flowers. And they were exported to whom? Mostly to overseas Chinese who settle in Southeast Asia, so in Indonesia, Surabaya, Java, in Siam also, now Thailand, Vietnam. So everywhere where there are overseas Chinese, they enjoyed tea very much, and especially flower-scented tea first from Fuzhou and then from Taiwan. Now the temperature Let's come down. Very refreshing, super easy to drink. No bitterness, very sweet. Let's do a second brew. The second brew is also going to be quite quick. The leaves have just released their flavors once only, and for a very short time. We are going to pour mostly where the leaves are the closest together, not where there is a big gap, but where they come close together, in order to make a backdraft back to the center of the gaiwan. And we help the leaves also with the lid a little bit, always towards the middle, and I'd say this is ready. So much easier than a rolled oolong. This Baozhong, you pour in, pour out. But this is really specific to this particular tea. We'll have to examine each tea and decide what is the best technique for them. Maybe we'll change accessory with different Baozhong. Maybe we'll use fewer leaves and longer brews. This is the more quality-wise we go, that's more the trend. Otherwise, hopla, we also great. Almost done. Actually, thank you very much for watching this show up to now. We will continue next week with the Jade Excellence Baozhong, another tea from the set I created especially for this class. If you have not ordered it, please order quickly. And now I'm going to turn to the questions, if you have any, about this class. Let me also read your comments. We have Joanne, happy that you made a video. Yes, it would help if you had closed captioning. Okay, I will. I don't know what exactly this means, but I might try to close it next time. So it means that it writes what I'm writing, what I'm saying. And Elizabeth writes, I made a very light infusion, very nice, sweet and silky. Great, I'm glad that you had good results with it, Elizabeth. So this shows how important the technique is. It helps us really to improve on the tea and get all its potential out. And finding the right technique for the leaves requires some thought, some strategic thinking. And then I showed you actually with the gaiwan, this is not a big investment. It's the minimum investment if you want to make tea, but it can just do the job, sometimes even better than a high-grade Yixing teapot. Why better? Because with gaiwan it allows us to empty the cup even faster than with a teapot. Okay. Thank you very much for your questions and your comments. I will check what it means with captioning. I don't see any captioning on my video, so all the best to you and see you next week. Bye bye.